Sometimes God removes people from your life. Hey everybody, welcome back to Sis, Take a Breath. And if this is your first time here, welcome sis. I'm so glad you're here. Before we get into today's conversation, you already know what I'm going to tell you. Take a deep breath, inhale, and exhale. Because today we're talking about something that can hurt deeply. Sometimes God allows people to leave your life, and sometimes you're sitting there wondering, God, why? Why did this relationship end? Why did that friendship fall apart? Why did that person I thought would always be in my life suddenly disappear? And sometimes, if we're being honest, we don't want to accept the answer. We want to call, we want to text, we want to explain ourselves, we want to fix it. We want to go back to how things used to be. But sis, what if the ending you're grieving is actually making room for something you've been praying for? Now listen, I'm not saying every person who walks out of your life was removed by God. Sometimes relationships end because people make choices. Sometimes we make choices. Sometimes people simply grow in different directions. But there are moments when a door closes, and even though it hurts, you have to trust that God can still work through the ending. Sometimes we hold on because we remember the beginning. One of the hardest things about letting someone go is that we remember who they used to be. We remember the good times, the late night conversations, the laughter, the memories, the promises, the version of them that made us feel safe. And we start thinking, but they weren't always like this. And maybe they weren't. But sis, you cannot build your future around somebody's past behavior. You have to pay attention to what is happening now, because sometimes we're not holding on to the person, we're holding on to the memory of the person. And those are two very different things. Sometimes you keep saying, but that's my friend, but that's my family, but I've known them for years. Okay, sis, but length of time doesn't automatically make a relationship healthy. You can know somebody for 20 years and still realize that the friendship is no longer good for you. And child, sometimes history is the only thing holding some relationships together. You have to be willing to ask yourself, is this relationship still healthy? Or am I just afraid to let go because of how long we've been connected? That's a hard question, but sometimes it's a necessary one. Sometimes God closes doors we keep trying to reopen. Have you ever had a door close and you kept trying to push it back open? You call, they don't answer. You text, they give you a dry response. You try to explain, nothing changes. You apologize, still nothing. And eventually you're exhausted. Sis, sometimes you've got to stop knocking on a door that keeps staying closed. Because every closed door isn't necessarily rejection. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes it's redirection. Sometimes it's simply the end of a season. And I know that's hard to hear. Because when you are attached to somebody, you don't just lose the person. You may feel like you're losing the plans, the dreams, the future you imagined, the version of yourself you were with them. And that's why letting go can feel so painful. But God can give you peace about something you once begged Him to keep. Don't confuse familiarity with purpose. Sometimes we keep people in our lives because they are familiar. You know them, they know you. You've been through things together. You have history. But familiar doesn't always mean healthy. And comfortable doesn't always mean where you're supposed to stay. Sometimes you're so used to a situation that you become afraid of what life will look like without it. But sis, You cannot allow fear of the unknown to keep you attached to something that's draining your peace. Sometimes you have to say, God, I don't understand this season, but I trust you. And that prayer takes faith, because faith isn't always knowing what's next. Sometimes faith is saying, Lord, I don't know where this road is going, but I know you are walking with me. God can use separation to reveal things. Sometimes distance gives you clarity. When you're constantly around somebody, you may overlook things. You make excuses. You say, that's just how they are. You know how they get. They didn't mean it. They're going through something. And sometimes compassion is a beautiful thing. But sis, compassion doesn't mean you have to ignore what something is doing to your spirit. When you step back, you may finally see the relationship for what it actually was. And you may realize, I was always the one calling. I was always the one apologizing. I was always the one making the effort. I was always the one trying to keep the peace. And you might sit there and say, Lord, how did I not see this before? But what if I still miss them? Sis, you can miss somebody and still know you shouldn't go back. You can miss somebody and still know you shouldn't go back. You can miss somebody and still choose peace. You can love somebody and still choose distance. You can forgive somebody and still have boundaries. You can remember the good and still accept that the friendship wasn't healthy for you anymore. Missing somebody doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. It means you're human. Your heart may need time to catch up with what your mind already understands. So don't beat yourself up because you're still thinking about them. Don't think you're weak because you still care. Healing doesn't always happen overnight. Sometimes it's one day at a time, one prayer at a time, one boundary at a time, one deep breath at a time. What does the Bible say? Isaiah chapter 43 verses 18 to 19 reminds us not to dwell only on the former things because God can do something new. And sis, sometimes we miss the new thing because we're too busy staring at what ended. We're asking God, why did you take this away? While God may be inviting us to look forward and say, okay, Lord, what's next? And Ecclesiastes 3 reminds us that there is a season for everything, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to keep. And there are also times when we have to release, not because we don't care, but because the season has changed. And here's something important. You don't have to understand everything immediately. Sometimes you will understand later. Sometimes you look back months or years from now and say, God, thank you for not letting me stay there. Stop chasing what God may be asking you to release. Sis, if somebody has made it clear that they don't want to be in your life, don't spend your life trying to convince them otherwise. Don't beg, don't chase, don't keep sending paragraphs. Don't keep trying to prove that you're worth keeping. Remember what we talked about in our last video? We don't have to beg people to see your worth. And sometimes that means accepting when somebody chooses to walk away. You can grieve it, you can cry about it, you can pray about it, but you don't have to destroy yourself trying to prevent an ending, because sometimes the ending is exactly what allows you to begin again. Maybe God is making room. Maybe God is making room for healthier friendships. Maybe He's making room for peace. Maybe He's making room for you to discover yourself again. Maybe He's making room for you to spend more time with Him. Maybe He's making room for opportunities you couldn't see because you were emotionally exhausted trying to hold on to something that was already slipping away. And sis, sometimes you have to let go of what's familiar to make room for what's healthy. That's not always easy, but it can be necessary. Don't let the ending define you. If someone leaves your life, that does not mean you're unlovable. If a friendship ends, that doesn't mean you're a bad friend. If a relationship ends, that doesn't mean you're not worthy of love. If somebody chooses not to appreciate you, that doesn't mean you aren't valuable. Their decision is not your identity. Their rejection is not your worth. Their absence is not proof that you are lacking. You are still God's workmanship. You are still fearfully and wonderfully made. You are still worthy. You are still becoming, and you are still loved. A little reminder for you today. So if you're watching this and you're grieving someone who is no longer in your life, sis, I want you to breathe. You don't have to figure out everything today. You don't have to force yourself to stop caring overnight. You don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt. Give yourself permission to grieve. Give yourself permission to heal. And most importantly, give God permission to work in the places you don't understand. Maybe the prayer isn't, God, please bring them back. Maybe the prayer becomes, God, if this relationship is no longer for me, give me the strength to release it. Give me peace when I don't understand. Give me wisdom to recognize what is healthy, and help me trust you with what's next. Because sometimes the greatest blessing isn't getting somebody back. Sometimes it's finally getting your peace back. And baby, peace is expensive. Don't give it away cheap. So sis, if somebody has recently walked out of your life, take another deep breath. Inhale and exhale. And remind yourself, what leaves my life does not take my worth with it. I can grieve and still grow. I can miss someone and still move forward. I can love someone and still choose myself. And I can trust God even when I don't understand what He's doing. Maybe this chapter is ending, but your story isn't over. So today I want you to leave a comment and finish this sentence. I am learning to let go of. You don't have to give details. Just fill in the blank. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's an old version of yourself. Maybe it's the need to control everything. Whatever it is, release it little by little. And if you're new here, please subscribe to Sis, Take a Breath. Here, we're going to keep having real conversations about life, relationships, faith, healing, self-worth, and everything in between. You don't have to have everything figured out today. Just take a breath. God is still writing your story. And sis, make God angle what you can't control. I'll see you in the next video.